Okay, dear colleagues, everything is ready on the stage, and I would like to invite to the stage the moderator of the plenary session, Denis Kovalevich, Director General, Nanotechnological Center Technopark. And I also would like to invite the participants of the session to the stage.
А можно мне работающий микрофон? Раз, два, три. Меня слышно, да? Прекрасно. Я просто себя не слышу, я прошу прощения, поэтому повторяю в микрофон. Нет, все уже. Вы хотите, чтобы я его упоминал, да? Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The theme of our plenary of today is, and we're a bit later started. Well, sorry, you'll have to speed up during lunch. We're going to have after plenary session. Okay, the name of our session is like this. We're going to try to correspond and compare instrumentally and from point of view of content two most huge technological programs of Russia. The first one, which lasts for 10 years already, and with this, Anatoly Chubais already spoke about it, investment of nanotechnologies in the broader sense. And number two program, which started in the year 2015, which is called National Technological Initiative. As you remember, this program is focused and its targets are that in coming 10, 20, 30 years, we need to have in Russia leader companies on new markets which do not exist today. And the question of the plenary is nano to each net. Is it possible? What do we mean? Do we mean that nanotechnologies, new materials with manageable properties are the most important component of the trend, which are priorities? And this is what we're going to discuss with the leaders of some directions of national technological initiatives. You know that we have some specific work groups which include representatives both of business and of state institutions, and are coordinated by the Agency of Strategic Initiatives. We're going to discuss it with investors in the new technological trends, including parts of National Strategic Initiative, and we'll listen to our European colleagues. We have here Martin Hinul, one of the leader, one of the most rapidly developed European cluster, Leuven Research and Development. Dmitry Peskov will join us a bit later. And this is the person on behalf of the Agency of Strategic Initiatives, coordinates, and is one of the starters of this program. So before giving the word to the first speaker, I would like to show one slide on the screen. Could you switch it on, please? Oh, thank you. During our discussion with Anatoly Chubais, there were questions to branches you're going to invest in. Let me bring about an example. So about 1 month ago in November, a new industrial strategy of the United Kingdom was published. There was a foundation of national labor enhancement was set up. And this is the structure of the foundation's investments. And look, number one, the hugest investment, housing, 11.1 billion. Which includes two components: new materials for construction and development of the whole technique of construction, and number two, energy, the whole package, batteries, photovoltaic roofs. Number one, priority of the English industrial program. Number two, R&D. Everything new. Number three, transport 4.9. And digital, which is discussed by many people now, a digital economy, 0.7. It is one of the priorities of national industrial strategy of the United Kingdom, but not number one. Let me now give the floor to my colleagues who are present today. And I would like to ask Alexei Borovkov. Alexei is not only vice rector on perspectives of St. Petersburg Polytechnic University, he also is a leader and co-manager of several companies which actively deal with complex modeling, etc., etc. And your activity, Alexei, refers to the sector of digital on the one hand, but you deal with materials and modeling on materials. So how can we refer your role and your branch in the technological group TechNet, or contemporary production technologies? If you have a PowerPoint presentation, you can start it. The slide is good. Thank you very much, and it is very representative. I think that if we get digital on the bottom, it will be a platform for construction, housing, and transport. We do not focus too much on digital separately, but 2 months ago, Martin Shumvalov, three people interviewed Russian specialists, and I probably said something interesting, so I was invited to Geneva to the conference. What were they interested in? Smart digital twin was number one, which was interesting to them. In transport, in housing, and in energetics, Anatoly Chubay said barrier reduction. All this is performed with digital techniques. Number two, digital wider fabrics or factories of the future, smart factories, virtual factories, and the so-called frog spring. I mean, you can get to the market, to the international market, to optimize the material, multi-scale. It should be assessed on all the levels, nano, meso, micro, and macro. So all this is produced digitally. So where do we go? With who we compete? Then the technology goes back. It is digital. So we select the product. We try to figure out who our competitor is or are. So digital really covers everything. So those who did to generate digital twins of the product and production will win the competition. Alexei, I'm listening to you, and it seems to me that I understand the words, but I don't understand what you mean, really. It is so difficult. So could you understand my question? Number one, in your works on modeling of difficult technological models, what is the role of new material? What place do they have? What happens in your activity due to the development of nanotechnologies and new materials. So the complex technological systems we deal with are composed of up to 200 materials. For each of them, we need to have characteristics for curves, deformities, resources in very detail. So if it is a rapid deformity is one thing. If it is a heated deformity, then it is 15 Krier dependence. So then we can get to mathematic models of micronodes. And each microsecond, we can have a new material here. And this is especially important. Kinds are good, but they should be digitalized. I mean, everything which has been fulfilled already, the technology started by Korolev, we need to digitalize everything. So in the year 2011, in Digital 3.0 program was voiced, but in Germany it was already 4.0. So digital twins, materials and product, that was what Germany was aimed at in those times. So today, the market is that half of the product is on the market and the half is in the form of digital twins, and you need only 1 or 2 months to go to the market. This is clear, and the partnership is clear too. But, for instance, you have a contract with a company, BMW, Mercedes, or any other huge car company. You model crash tests or something like that. And you use all the indications of materials. The materials you use are standard materials. And you need to assess them in your calculations, so you don't have the right to have any innovations there. If you do, then that means BMW need to produce these materials. But when do the new materials really occur in your materials? You know, the 20 materials which are used simultaneously, all of them need very adequate and very precise mathematical models describing all destruction curves of decomposites. If we want to interfere in new material, to start a new material, we need to conduct and the full-fledged research experiments, so the criteria are clear, and then we need to make a digital twin, so a mathematical model and a digital twin. Then this standard can be used by BMW, for instance. BMW, right, the German name. So all this model is referred to all the thousands of suppliers in the whole world. So, and using it, they need to understand how this material should behave in different environments, surrounded by hundreds of other materials. And my second question is to Alexander Pinsky, Transas Deputy Director, and Marinette, also Deputy CEO. Alexander, in your activity, by the way, describe it, please, very shortly, because this is not the most famous brand and famous branch. So where do you see the point for collaboration with nanotechnologies and the point where we have nothing to do? The subject is a marine branch, And sometimes big bosses do not treat it seriously. But the navies, the boats, responsible for 90% of all the load carries in the world, and the majority of oil is also produced in the sea area. So Marinette concentrates on several trends. Number one, digital navigation, infra-communication technologies, which are now very active thanks to telecommunication access to the sea. They transform the whole branch of the water transport, and they make up a new digital model. IT companies, Russian companies are traditionally quite competitive on the market, so we have the opportunity being successful there at developing the world champions, aiming at NTI, so representing Transas company and answering your 3 or 2 questions. It could be difficult for me because, but we are successful already. We are number 1 private company which developed without any national support and became top 1 on the market. Number 2, the resources of the ocean, renewable energy sources, production, biotechnologies, the infrastructure which is necessary for that, including underwater robotic techniques. So we have investments there, and we can see this kind of infrastructure for the ocean resources is developing. So the demand increases and the market increases. This is the fundamental approach, though. The branch is becoming more and more attractive, and it becomes more and more attractive to use the ocean resources. The technologies we have today give every opportunity for that. And for Russia, and the logic is quite simple, that we'll have to work with our ocean resources, because if not we, then others will do it for us. Because being sovereign in the ocean is not the borders painted, but the resources they have to use the resources. So we need to do not very accurate some smaller solutions, but have copies and copy them and make them in the world. Technologies and boat construction. Can we compete? Well, maybe with Japan and China we cannot, but Europeans cannot. We cannot compete for civil boats, but we have always been successful in high technique military or underwater submarines, etc. And there is a demand now for solutions in this area while the humanity develops, and for the resources of the oceans and sub-ocean resources, we need special resources and speedy submarines, and this is what Marinette does. So then this is quite broad spectrum. Where do we work with new materials? Absolutely. We have dozens and even more projects which are approved by the work group of Marinette, and some of them are already fulfilled as part of R&D. And we are probably one of the most fruitful work groups from the point of view of R&D projects, though not so much social meaning. So the first question we've got to answer is, what new materials are really necessary for submarines and subwater transport? And we'd never start with the manufacturer, but with the buyer. And we are criticized for that. So the boats is, like a human being. For several years, we make projects and R&D, and then for dozens of years, it works. So we are happy to use technologies from some similar and nearby branches.
The critical mass has been accumulated, and there is a new generation of the ships with the use of new technologies and materials and the principles of its design. So this is exactly what is happening now. Even at the level of the international regulators, there are new standards for the design of the next generation ships. Still, this is an industry which knows how to count the money. We are a low marginal business. So the naval transport, sea transport, has a percentage of the margin, and to improve the efficiency of construction and to make a bit of money on operations, it's important for us, and it's a lot. And you know, a ship is just a very costly item. And for example, if we save some of the percentage from your course, so we will, the ship will be lighter in terms of weight. It will not require maintenance that frequently, and there will not be the bar deposits. It will not require repairs that frequently. There is another factor which we witness now, which is historical. It's digitalization of our industry. We are talking about unmanned cars and planes which have no crew. So as for the ship, this is the oldest means of transport, and the trend towards cutting the crew per tonnage, it has never stopped. The supertanker crew is smaller than a Greek crew in the ancient Greece. So we need the materials which provide a long-term results. No need for human maintenance, something which will provide for minimal crew or no crew at all. New requirements for the equipment. And if there is no person who is not professional enough to control the equipment, if we just trust the equipment on board, so we have a new level of requirements for them. So there is a lot of materials towards new materials, and within Marinette as well, I would identify 3 areas. The first are the composite materials. So from yesterday to tomorrow, and the composite materials are already here. I will give my personal opinion. So the weight is where there is a lot they can contribute. They use it for the cabins of the passenger ships. It will become something as a standard, and that will become the robot techniques for small ships with a small amount of energy resources, where the weight is of importance. And at November 29, at the Moscow Transport University, at the council, we had the composite ship building document approved. What is the limitation here, and how we could make money here? What is a good piece of the pie, so that we can easily make money within short periods of time? Composites are losing against steel, so it's just predictable. We know how to repaint, etc. And the composite materials, they are different. Alexei was talking about design of materials, and there is no in the world quality products for ship design using composite materials. So let us save some time. Composite materials is the first. Additive technologies. Here we are also different from other industries, but size really matters. Can you imagine a ship? For us, additive technologies in the first place are the issues connected with the manufacturing, with the equipment. There are first steps done on this way. You saw the manipulators for laser and plasma additive technologies. Last week there was a significant event for the first Veritas Registration Bureau certified the part of the fan which was used this additive technologies, and it was connected with the bionic structure, but it's lighter, and those who enter this market, they can enter this market and really be well established here. And the nanomaterials here, the range is much wider, so not getting into theoretical details. The projects approved by Marinette: Hydroenergospetstroy, protective wave security complex, the line which protects the embankment from the waves and its destruction, and then it transforms the energy of waves into electrical energy with the use of special materials which improve the efficiency of this unit. And they use the materials which are nanomaterials. So these are three. So and the efficiency is debatable. And here we modify the software so that it's not weared off that quickly, and so that it's more resistible. As quantum informatics, sensor spin. So now they have a project on a creation of gyroscope sensor based on laser crystal net. It's nitrogen replaceable vacancies in the crystal net, so it's more high accuracy gyroscopes. It will be used also in unmanned planes, and in the first place, like our colleagues are in the sea, and it's so here the range is so wide. I hope that my colleagues were taking notes because that was a technical specification for possible business projects. So thank you very much for that. I will not ask you extra questions. Mikhail Samsonov, Director of Medical Department of one of the biggest Russia pharmaceuticals, Air Farm. At the same time, a Deputy Director for HealthNet. And Mikhail, your opinion about the issues that we have started to discuss. So, good afternoon, dear colleagues. It's a pleasure for me to hear that biotechnologies and pharmaceuticals were named among as the most promising industries and areas in Russia. So here there are lots of things where we coincide with nanotechnologies. We are talking about traditional technologies, synthesis of small molecules. So these are big plants with high volumes. And there is a huge technological breakthrough. And in the world, there is a clear vision and understanding that the pharma companies which are on the market now, there will be different companies in 20 years' time, and they will not exist. Even in biotechnology, what's happening? We are extensively using the cell, the live cell, as a plant to synthesize nucleotides and proteins, and it's growing. And another trend, what is the focus of HealthNet? It's everything which is inside and outside of the human being, not only healthcare. The second trend is minimization, and we see chipped biofabrics in the future. Well, it could just sound too futuristic, but in the future, a small chip could be implanted in your body, and it would be producing the required drug or compound in your body. These are about the technology changes in a huge drug production. So we will have small, highly efficient manufacturing site, and even inside your body. HealthNet, what is our focus? We are looking into 6 areas. starting from the digital medicine and digitalization, and we know quite well informatics is very strong in Russia. If you look at publications globally, 50 publications are by Russian people or people of Russian origin. The understanding of the mechanisms and by IT, well, it can be in the management of healthcare, but at the level of at the molecular level, we started to understand what is happening in genome, what is the reason, what are the consequences of mutation. Can we amend the diagnostics and the treatment, and also there is a mechanism for making changes in the genome. So it's very close with the approach of nanotechnologies and biomedicine. There is genetics, diagnostics, genetics, and there is also the genetics which change the genome, and also a focus on a healthy and active lifestyle. We are not talking about sports and longer life. We are talking about healthy lifestyle. Well, we use that phrase too much. What is the optimal set of habits which provide for a long and active life? Because the long life should be active. Japan is a good example here. What we could do here? Well, there are several interesting things here. It's a monitoring of the body 24/7. All of us, we have different detectors on our hand, and they process the data collected, which provide a more healthy lifestyle for us if you want to. And other detectors are helping for diagnostics, and then the diagnostic part will minimize the amount of actions, so we will have more parameters in smaller amounts. After that, in the future, it can be just the chips that you wear and those who are implanted. And the next solution are different approaches on treatment, starting from the protein ones, and with the help of working with the genome, 3D printing, and also printing of organs. Now it exists. It's one of the alternatives for transplantology. Well, common approaches with the nanotechnologies. Here I could mention that we can grow an organ, a chimeric, and there is onls which exists in pigs, because pigs are most similar in terms of genotype. It's more close to humans. It can be printed on a 3D printer, and we are now printing the tissues, living tissues, and there is a huge problem with diabetes, and there is and we are working on modification of the cells so that they start to work in a right way. Dmitry is just back from a meeting. This is a Russian company, and now it's present in Japan, in the US markets, and they have so these are wearable detectors which detect a set of parameters. Over 20 patents would be impedance, and with the algorithm, it's a technological solution combined with bioinformatics and with the strong points of the Russian science on a process and algorithm and feedback. I believe that after today's discussion, we will have a kind of a map of the thesis map from our participants, and I think that the organizers will send it over to all of the participants because it's of huge importance. There were lots of things mentioned, and Michael, so you just listed many important points where we could cooperate, and he mentioned the priorities. 1 year ago, Dmitry Peskov here mentioned on this stage, and if I were you, dear nanotechnologists, I would think about fashion. If we could have a big market, he said market, he used this word, then it would be in fashion. You know that there is a special dedicated group in the fashion net of the National Technological Fashion Initiatives. This group is different from others in terms of their announcement. They announced that they do not claim to get any state funding. Alexander Shumsky is head of this group, is the president of the Russian Fashion Chamber. Alexander, your view, please. We met and we discussed several joint projects and potential companies in fashion industry, in the clothes industry, what you've been doing for over 20 years. What is the role of the materials today and of the textiles? And the fashion industry was not the one we could vote for. Thank you. In fact, fashion is was within the topic of consumer goods. This is the competence that we lost in our country and we haven't restored it yet. So this is this type of competence. And FashionNet is about consumer goods. This is the part of the textile industry, like we call it here, the part of the textile industry which is responsible for consumer goods. And in fact, in the world, this is the biggest part. So it's 90 or 85% of the market. And as fashion in our country is underestimated in terms of the area that you could work in. And it's one of the biggest consumer markets in the world and one of the highest marginal, because the cost of the goods that you buy in the store can be by 10 or 20 times different from the cost of its production. I think this is a very rare margin that you could find. In other industries, it's not seen. As for fashion production, accessories and shoes and bags, so this is the standard margin. So 1 year ago exactly, with Mr. Peskov, we made a presentation of FashionNet for the Ministry of Industry, and we demonstrated possible areas for development, including the technologies. But our main goal and focus is creativity in the industry, which we need to develop. To our mind, FashionNet could become the nets which are used by other nets, and one of our main focuses is development of designers. All of this market is built on design and on emotional consumption. When we presented FashionNet to the Ministry of Industry, who are responsible for its development, they were just very negative, and they were aggressively negative. And this consumer culture has never existed in the US, and it does not exist now because of adequate evaluation of this industry for the future, because until recently many people were convinced that this is manual labor. It would be developing like, I don't know, some special artisans. And of course, technological understanding and lack of information caused this misunderstanding. What I can say now, after 1 year, less than 1 year ago, the Ministry of Industry updated their strategy of textile industry development till 2025. And now there are things which are connected with technological developments and creativity. FashionNet, we did not launch like Marinet, but still we complete those strategic goals. As for the technology and connection with the technologies, so we are deeply convinced that there are no fashion technology as such. Any technologies used in fashion, and this is just only the application of the technologies which are used for other industries, and it covers all of the cycle it starts from design, production, manufacturing, logistics, delivery, and sale, and consumption. And the fourth technological revolution, change of consumption model and business models, they have a great impact on the industry. And fashion, from this respect, could be a good start to launch certain technologies and piloting of the technologies, because fashion could promote some technologies through technologies. So several examples. We all heard about wearable technologies and all of the gadgets which track your heart rate and pulse and measure your temperature of your body, and their design and their appearance and whether they are fashionable or not. These are the factors which decide whether they are fashionable or not. Fitbit, was not very good in terms of the appearance. It did not work quite well in some cases, but still, in this area, in terms of consumption, well, the design and emotional parts are of huge importance, and they have great impact. And as for the nanotechnologies, I would like to say the following. Well, if there would be any revolution in fashion industry, it would be influenced by the nanotechnologies, because creation of new materials and new qualities of materials, it is something which can dramatically change the industry of fashion. What we have now, well, in general terms, change of manufacturing models, moving on to robotics, and these are the same trends in production of clothes like in other industries, but the new materials, appearance of new materials and their new properties can change consumption of clothes as well, because when clothes have new functions, it's not only about protecting you from cold or just self-expression. You will have new functions for your outfits which will trigger dramatic changes, but the nanotechnology not to make the clothes attractive. From the recent example, Levi Strauss, they produced with the Google, they have jacquard, and they made a coat. This is just a gadget coat, a gadget jacket, but what is its purpose? They introduce a special element. You can charge your phone, so it's charging your phone. So that was a joke. But nanotechnologies, it's like, that's cool, that's interesting. Maybe it's good for the jigs, but, it could not work in massive consumption in FMCG. And, there are tests on the materials, which will do the same as this denim jacket, but without wires or without special charging elements or linings. And the recent experiments connected with fibers which can work as solar elements, and they are put into the fibers.
So they are not really efficient, less than 0.5%. But this is the way this industry is going to develop, and nanotechnologies can change this dramatically. So FashionNet and our concept for our roadmap actually refers it, and we take it into consideration. New materials is something that can give us a push to be number one somewhere. Our greenfield is our advantage, actually. By the term fashion, I don't need just lights and shows, but the market is more than 3 billion a year. So fashion is much more. Well, let's go back to nanotechnologies. Well, I don't know how what my colleagues think. I really hope that you are going to develop further, because the Center for Flexible Electronics is, and one of its application is integration of electronics into clothes. So this is my 100% belief, and you decide. So thank you very much, my dear colleagues. So we've heard 4 points of view of CEOs and co-directors of work groups of national technical initiatives. So we're through with the first part, and I would like to invite my senior friend and colleague, Martin Hinul, who is one of the leaders of one of the greatest European innovative clusters, uniting 3 regions, 3 continents, Belgium, France, and Germany. And it is called Leuven-Koenachen, and this is the greatest innovative university in Europe and the best innovative university outside America. So, Martin, how do you think well, the position of the Europe and the stake of the Europe? Okay. So can you hear me, Martin? Can you hear me, Martin? Martin, can you hear me? Yes. So, how do you see where do you see the place of Europe for these industries? We discussed mainstream and substreams. So, where do you think is the place of Europe in these branches?
Trying to do some actions, some businesses in different, quite material-based industries. You heard what Mr. Chubais told in the beginning of the results of the previous 10 years and the plan for the next one. How do you see the place from your point of view, the place of Europe and probably the place of Russia in this picture?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here. Mr. Chubais, I was very listening to your fantastic speech. Let me first introduce myself a little bit. I was very favored to go as a young kid. Thank you so much. As a young kid to these brilliant universities, MIT and Stanford, when preparing a PhD. So I saw for the first time in my life embryonic things in that Silicon Valley. We saw the Hewletts, the Packards, the Variants, etc., etc. Then I went back to Belgium, worked for many years in the telecom industry. And then I was very fortunate to be sent by the Belgian government to that Silicon Valley, 1984 up to 1990. And that was the boom. Booming in technology. We saw the Steve Jobs and the Larry Ellisons and these kind of guys doing things which we couldn't believe. And Europe didn't understand it at all. Same thing for Russia. From 84 to 90, this was a revolution in technology. Beyond belief. We saw companies never seen before in history on mankind. Later on, I went to Washington, 90 to 98, and that was fantastic that I could see the government, how they behaved. As you maybe know, they put 3% of the R&D in R&D, 3% of the GDP. That is a lot. If you take today $16 trillion GDP of the United States, roughly 3% goes into R&D. Wow. So in 98, I go back to Europe, back to Belgium, and I see then all the great leaders in Europe looking to copy the United States. They went to Lisbon in 2000, very famous year. They had a lot of good wine, I think, but they didn't come out with results. And they were saying, we have to do 3% in R&D. They were not successful, even not as of today, we only do 2%. Not enough, not enough. Similar for Russia. You need that critical mass. Anyway, so then I went to Leuven, little town, fantastic university, old university, and today the most innovative in Europe and number 5 in the world. So we are very happy with that. And we said, let's try to do the things. Let's do it. So people who know me, they know very well that you can do it only in regions. You cannot do it in Russia. You cannot do it in Germany. You do it in very, very specific regions. I was listening today to Mr. Chubais quite a bit, and when I came in, I had a small discussion. I came for the first time to Russia in 2011, and I think I came to one of the first shows. And I didn't know what I was seeing. It was quite confusing what they showed me. In the 5-6 years that I'm now traveling to Russia quite a bit, 3-4 times a year, I met a lot of interesting people. I see a lot of progress. So that's the good news. And I'd like to congratulate Mr. Chubais, for example, with the Rusnana initiative. I can't believe the progress you made in 5 years. There is critical mass, and I'm pretty sure in the next 5 years you will come to fantastic clusters in the domain of nano industry. Sometimes if I have nothing to do, I write a book, and I'm writing now a book, yeah, it's finished in fact. Where is the economy going in the next 10 years? It's Martijn Ulles, don't drop tomatoes on me. And what I see is, I see mainstream, and I say substreams. That is the economy for the next 10 years. I'm not willing to look further, it doesn't help me. There you see we are the #1 in Europe as most innovative university. That is fantastic. We beat Imperial College and the Federal Polytechnic in Lausanne and all that kind of stuff. We are #5 in the world. It's not too bad after the Stanfords and the MITs. The Leuven Knowledge Economy region, very interesting thing, is based on technology topics that in Russia you usually called nanotechnologies. There you see, for example, what we did in years, 5-6 years, in micro and nanoelectronics. Take a look to the core. There you see KU Leuven and IMEC. IMEC is the Inter-University Microelectronics Center. Some departments, and we created in the third circle pure innovative companies. This was very new in Europe, in Belgium, that we could create from good knowledge innovative companies, fast-growing companies. And in the next, and at the outer circle, you see what we call mixed innovative companies. A little bit broader than pure innovative. We did it for mechatronics and additive technologies. We became very, very good in that. I think we set up the first 3D printing company in Europe, doing extremely well. We brought it to the NASDAQ. Recently, we set up layer-wise printing, very sophisticated metals, niobium, ruthenium, wolfram, you name it. We did it for feed, food, and health. And we did it in the life science. And we heard a lot about life science. With my colleague sitting next to me, we are doing miracles in that field. This was done in 10, 12 years, going from good knowledge to fantastic, what we call clusters. The next 10 years, whether we like it or not, there is a mainstream of companies. The new knowledge economy, 2017-27, will be driven, that's what I think, by roughly 150 big companies. We see them in US, a little bit in Europe, a little bit in China, Japan, and South Korea. Big companies like Apple, Qualcomm, Alibaba, ASML, Samsung, they have presence all over the world, hundreds of thousands of people. We don't have them too much in Europe. You don't have them too much in Russia. These companies, if you characterize them, you see very solid revenues and profits, very strong assets, huge market caps, never seen before in history of mankind, this kind of market caps they put down. with a huge amount of people worldwide. It's a strength. All of these companies are headed by extreme, strong leaders. And I always take my dear friend Tim Cook from Apple. Wow, he's even better than Steve Jobs, believe me. Very, very strong leaders in these 150 companies. I said already, they become stronger than nations. Take the GAFA, Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon.com. They have a market cap of 2-3 trillion, so they can buy Russia, believe it or not. They can buy my country 5 times, and we give them Luxembourg free of charge. Companies are driven by growth markets. Of course, you have to take a look into China. Of course, you look into India. Driven by mergers and acquisitions. Believe it or not, in 2016, 50% of the growth for these big companies came from acquisitions. And I can prove it at any time. The companies, and I think that's negative, driven by quarterly reports. They are not so innovative as we think. Here you see some of these guys, huge market caps, as I said already, never seen before in history. And Apple is sitting there today with 650 billion. Then you see Alphabet, in fact, the Google, never seen. So there is my mainstream. You see already some of the companies I think will go on a little bit. You see the Apples, the Oracles, the RM, the Gileads, the Genentechs, the Siemens, you named it. It goes further. AT&T, ARM, Roche, Pfizer, IBM. It goes further. 150 of them I stipulated there. I did a lot of work in taking a very in-depth look to these companies. And the bad story is we do not have enough in Europe, neither in Russia. So then I said, what I'm going to do now, 150 companies, come on, that's nothing. 150 companies, by the way, doing roughly 23 trillion. And then I said, let me take a look to substream companies. And that's what we are talking today. That's what I heard today. A series of substreams I put on the paper there, and I cannot see it that well. For us, it's autonomous driving of cars.
Sensors.
Yes, sorry, I cannot see it very well from here. Autonomous car. First you have autonomous cars. Big field. We can do a lot there, a lot. Sensors, we heard already sensors. If you take the watch from Samsung in your hands, we made it in Leuven, we made the sensors. We are making a lab on a chip. In a couple of years from here, you will have a chip somewhere giving you all the information on your health. We will transfer that system together maybe with Qualcomm. We will secure the signal, etc. Yeah, no, I can see. Then, everybody talks about cybersecurity. I think it's not the Russians who are hacking. I think it comes from countries like Israel with a university.
Technicon.
No, not Technicon. It's another big university. They are top in the world in cybersecurity, and they will come out with the applications. FinTech, phenomenal. I always take my wallet mostly out, and I take that plastic card. Can you believe in 2017 that we are running with a little plastic card with a little magnetic tape? This is Middle Ages. In FinTech, please go to London. You see thousands of FinTech young companies. And we are doing the same in Belgium. E-commerce and marketing. You will say it's Amazon.com. Yeah, that's fine. It will be maybe Zalando. Maybe it will be Flipkart. A lot can be done by us. And then you come to e-health. It will change completely the medical world. And I'm sitting next to a person who knows much, much more than I do. But we see a lot going on into e-health with the sensors, etc., etc. Then, medical technology. Wow, we can do miracles again. We are working in Leuven, for example, on robots for surgeon applications. We built sensors in it. We built software in it. The sky is the limit. Renewable energy. We heard already a lot. we have to go to alternative energies, whether that's solar, whether that's wind, whether that's biofuels. We can do it. Robotics, I mentioned already. Very important, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., etc. So if you put that now on my main drive, my mainstream, the 150, but the 11 substreams which I've identified here, now we are talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of companies. And there we can play a role, and Russia can play a role. We don't need these mega companies. I'm not fan of it. We need, whether you believe it or not, this kind of substream, which I indicated, 11 or 12 or 13, whatever that may be, where we see thousands of companies and where the nanotechnology plays a fundamental, a key role. Whether you name it wearables or e-health or medtech or robotics or whatever it is, there you are coming in that field. Some conclusions. There is no doubt what kind of companies and types of technologies will be present in the global mainstream in the next year. The mainstream will give certainly great opportunities to companies being present in the substream companies. I guarantee you that these substreams will form the oxygen for this big mainstream. Let them run. We cannot catch up, I think, with the Apples and the Googles and you name them all. But we are very strong in Europe and in Russia, what I listen to, in these substream companies. And I think there we have to put our effort. I think Russia built up enough critical mass in the last 5-6 years. That's what I observed over the 5-6 years that I'm coming to this fantastic country. And I'm pretty sure that we can be there, the Americans or the Chinese and so on and so on. Even China will have a very tough time to come in this game. Let them build the Alibabas and let them build the Huaweis, but in the substreams which I identified, I don't see them so much. Similar for India, similar for America. I think there Europe and Russia has an enormous strength for the next 10 years.
Martin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We need a little bit to go further and quicker. Спасибо большое за...
Thank you very much for your overview from a different, for us, reality. And it seems to me that the list of substreams Martin has voiced is, and he mentioned with red the direction he sees Nanocenter and Rosnano does. And simultaneously, they are equal with the list we have as our social and technological initiative development. Before finalizing our discussion of today, I would like to ask two friends of mine to voice their opinion shortly. Number one, so these are people who are responsible for the for investment or funding what we have discussed already. Sergei Polyakov, Foundation for Innovation Promotion. So you're the operator today of the national support of the NTI R&D program. As far as I understand, from the very beginning, it was a risk for you. You are the oldest foundation in the country, very clear, with clear programs, and there are thousands of people and smaller enterprises work with you. And what we have here is R&D with the Horizon Forward program for 20, 30 years with different criteria from where you are used to. So how did you enter this process, and what is happening from the point of view national support of your program with the R&D programs? First and foremost, we are not the most important operator. We are one of the operators, and we emerged not so long ago. That was 2016. So September 14, a decision was taken to invest some funds to the foundation of innovation promotion. So why are we there, and what can we do? The foundation issues a broad line of products for each innovation cycle. This is good. It gives you the opportunity to see the products which are interesting for the initiative at different stages. So we have a program supporting young researchers for different roadmaps. There are startups, there are just more experienced companies which are already on the market, but we are at the Congress for Nano Industry. One of the specific topics of our foundation is support of nanotechnological startups, and this figure increases. Every year we set up and launch 400 to 500 startups, and they can try themselves in business, but as a result, you can see very good companies. So we've calculated not all companies take all the 3-year cycle, and they are right. It's better not to take too much if you are not sure, but many of them go on. Our grants made about 2.7 billion rubles, and we have more than 20 billion innovative products. So this is 10 times more than it was invested. So these are not playing games. This is a real sector, and there are a lot of programs there on nanotechnologies. We've been worked in cooperation with Rosnano for many years. For Rosnano, they became part of their portfolio. So the companies you supported in the year 2006-08 you supported now are part of the main portfolio of Rosnano. Well, yes, and it's a good indicator. Going to NTI, we are now linked to this program. We got 2 billion last year and 2 billion this year, and 3 billion for the coming years. Good money. You're speaking about risks. Yes, we do have risks.
And also, the state authorities, which are supervising, they never forget about ours. So they ask about the efficiency, economics, and the amount of patents generated. As for intellectual property, we're doing fine. It's one of our KPIs. Practically for each project within MTI, we should have the details of our performance. And as for economic, it's more complicated. We are waiting for the question, what's the result? Where is the business and where is the economic efficiency? And MTI is not such a big deal. We are talking about year 2035. These are the markets in just the decades, and there are lots of requests, and we have 228 contracts with the finance and 5 roadmaps last year, and this year we have 7 roadmaps. We are just working within the approved roadmaps, and FashionNet, we have a huge respect for them after they are approved, so we could also apply within that roadmap, that of fashion. And today, we see a lot of projects which are under implementation. They are already on the market. And there are projects for the future and the projects which are of market character. And we work in close cooperation with the working groups. We take into account their priorities. For those who would like to be part of that competition, and we hope that we'll have the decree of the government and we'll announce the new competition. And after that, we'll get extra budgeting. There are technological barriers which are voiced by the members of the working groups. We have priority areas, and we need to work within those priorities and request to get the experts, and we are discussing the project that we support. We have hard discussions, to be honest, and sometimes we have different view on the projects, but we find common grounds. Of course, working groups, they have their priority, but their responsibility belongs to us. They will ask from us whether we are making money or not, but we speak the same language sometimes. So several examples of the projects we are supporting, they are related to materials and nanotechnologies. I would like to draw your attention to the following. If you want to come to the fund again to support with an MTI project, you need to position your technology and your project as close as possible to one of the roadmaps. From the working group members, we hear great material, great project. Autonet, Ironet, everyone needs this material. This is a universal material. But when you come and say, I have a new nanomaterial, nanotechnology, which is solves a specific problem for a neuronet or demonet, and if it's just a general application project for a composite material needed everywhere, we may not get the support of the working group. Sergey, thank you very much. Yes, I wish you strength in defending your logics, and thanks to your changes in the practical work, this becomes possible. Today, we have a representative from the venture investments, Vladimir Gundurs, Director General of RMI Partners, which is the managing partnership of Nanomed Invest, as far as I understand. Vladimir, tell me please, were there certain actions or certain ideas how to change your practices? Not only in Russia, but mostly not in Russia, but in global venture investment. Are you planning to adapt them to the current reality based on what our colleagues say, and within MTI in particular? Thank you for your question. As I am the last to talk, so no, there's one more person. Then I will take more time. Dear colleagues, I would like to say the following. The fund created by Rosnano for investment into medical technologies is 5 years old, and the experience that we have is unique for Russia. It's a serial transfer of Western technologies in biomedicine and pharmaceuticals. 7 companies received investment, and they were transferring the IPs to Russia and CIS to Novomedica, a Russian company. And this serial transfer of technology, in the first place, was a very interesting experience. And now we have the best practice for other industries and our industry. And then we have an idea what's happening in venture investments in the world, meaning in medicine industry. This is a growing market, and this market will be growing without limits. People want to live healthier and longer, so the investment will continue and only grow. If we talk about the current market structure, more than half of the market is for the US. Russia has a smaller share, less than 1% in venture investment. And the pharmaceuticals from the global pharmaceuticals of Russia is 2%, a little bit more than 2%. About our experience, well, yes, answering your question, yes, we plan to change the investment declaration. We plan to use future investments in Russia for the R&D in Russia, and including the project areas which are within HealthNet framework. And if we are talking about interesting learnings that we have Well, in the first place, all of the molecules, all of the drugs developed are about nano industry. These are nano-sized molecules. If we're talking about nanotechnologies, they are now used mainly in two areas of pharmaceuticals. First, with the purpose to change biophysical properties for the targeted transmission of the substances to the sickness location, and then freeing of active molecules from the drug in the body, inside the body, which is actively being used. And after analyzing this experience, I could give two examples of companies. The first, a company with the help of nano use of a drug, so it came through hematoencephalitic barrier, and this drug got to the brain, and now this drug has the second trial stage for the postpartum depression, a very vital global problem. And this is a public company with good capitalization, and we hope that if the tests are successful, the company will have good prospects on the market. Another example which drive us closer to personalized medicine, hormonal active receptors in tumors which are present in, which are blocked in 1/3 of the population because of how the genetic works. And the drugs are not efficient for the 1/3 of the population. They're not efficient for the tumor in 1/3 of the population. And there was an innovative development which is under clinical trials today, just provides for the possibility for these receptors to respond to the drug. So these receptors are released, they are free. It provides a therapeutical effect, and it is also about saving because we should not do any genetic tests. There is no chemical drugs, chemical treatment which could be efficient for such a public company, also a market player. Talking about health net investment prospects, there is an area already where we witness a hype, so it's digital medicine. I saw interesting numbers by nature that you had on the screen in the beginning of our discussion. Compared to NHS, we've done more for digital technologies and for given that we invested less than 700 million. Not, I think they had invested before, and now they don't need the investment. No, you are mistaken. As for digital technology and digital medicine, in Russia, we did a lot, really a lot. And there are unexpected investors like Sberbank, Yandex, VTB, and everyone wants to create an ecosystem for the digital medicines. And I think Russia could be competitive in this area on the international level. Anatoly Chubais mentioned Novomedica. They already established a technological center which works with the mechanism of drug delivery, of creation of combined drugs using different release technologies. All of those technologies are being used now, and these are the drugs with bio and nanotechnologies, and there are projects under implementation which will bring in smart innovation. This is not development of new molecules. I don't see much prospect here. The current investments in Russia do not provide for creation of a competitive offer in this area. All of the venture investment in biopharmaceuticals, as of today, unfortunately, it's only several $1 million. And I think we should not be discussing this topic. It's too early. And talking about smart innovations as improvement of generics, as improvement of the pharma properties of existing molecules, I think this is promising, and we're already doing this. And I see a serious prospects for development there. All of the big pharma companies which are here are Pharma, Generium, Biocat, and Nanolec, and Nova Medica. All of those companies, after creating the generic manufacturing side, they start to think about R&D and experts. And I think for the Russian pharma industry, the growth would not be that significant, but the content in R&D growth will be important. I think what is connected with venture investment within NTI is a topic for a separate discussion, because, of course, today the leaders are not the venture people. The leaders, the drivers, are the state mechanisms with the help of the innovation fund and Russian state companies. Dmitry, look, to my mind, our colleagues, to some extent, gave an answer to the question which is on the screen, nano to each net. Yes, they gave a positive answer. To some extent, this is the basis of most of the areas, of course, except for those that Martin mentioned as those in red, the NTI, which are under implementation. I think here we are talking about technologies, and this is quite a boring discussion. Not just boring, but it's quite, everything is clear here. I think it is more important and it is better to discuss the practices, the business practices and investment practices which are driving and accelerating the NTI and those who are slowing it down. Because RusNano and Nanocenter is not only about 10 kilograms of fine, animal skin, but it's 10 years of professional investment into nanotechnologies and into technological areas. RosNano is the biggest technological investor in the country. It used to be, and it will remain the first, and we do not see a competition. And they have objective competence. For sure, and many times you mentioned that the experience, we don't have anywhere to get the experience from. This is the experience that we get while we are doing something. And the speed of getting this experience is important, and how we can make conclusions and take the learnings based on failures, successes, and mistakes. And what are the key practices, and what helps you to accelerate, to gain this experience, and what is an impediment, what slows you down. I think it correlates with what was mentioned by Anatoly Chubais before the plenary discussion, when he was speaking about the conclusions and learnings, and which are positive and which were negative. Well, thank you. Of course. So allow me to just give my opinion about different positions on NTI. I'm the director for the future. I'm a romantic person, but still I am a designer, and then I'm a prosecutor for values in certain situations.
Из разных позиций у меня.
So I will base myself on different positions. As a designer, of course, we closely monitor the experience of RosNano, and I tend to agree with that. Sometimes I disagree. Well, some of the mistakes we do not make because you were the first to commit those mistakes, and we should not repeat that. It's not necessary. But for us, mistakes are part of the strategy. Mistakes should be cheap and fast. These are its key characteristics. And for us, this is a valuable, a priceless experience for us. And NTI hasn't started as an initiative. In line with our strategy, in line with our plan, we will just get started in 2018. We have the strategy for 20 years, and next year we just need to launch. So we will finalize preparation, because if we are talking about maturity, now at this stage, we cannot solve the tasks and challenges that our country has. And we need to gain this experience. And NTI within 20 years, it's a complicated cooperation in order to create the new type of products. They should be market products and technological products which are in the center of value added, yeah, but this is a very long definition, but this is the gist of technological innovations and primitive cooperations which we have now. We've been doing for the past 2 years. We are increasing the level of complication and how we understand where we will follow our colleagues from US and Europe, and we will have some exclusive areas by 2020, and there we will be a different level of players, and we will have a different training level and preparation level. And this cooperation around creation of the new generation of products, of course, it requires the cooperation not only between people, but maximum cooperation between the technologies. And this is the key idea that we have. I would highly recommend you. Santa Fe Institute issued a perfect study on innovative work from the mathematical point of view. This is a great report saying that if you only use the experience that you have, you will lose. And in the future, those who have the maximum amount of technologies in order to satisfy the market needs and as much as possible market needs. This is a simple formula which enables for building this strategy. And here we have technological barriers. And so there are three principles. And well, as for the first two, so this is based on experience. For me, it was a discovery at the Luxembourg conference, partnership conference, Luxial. I heard it from Anatoly. This is good. This is the one level of trust. The second level of trust is when you come to Novosibirsk and you look at how it works in real life. So this is the next level of trust. The third level of trust, when I heard that this used Batel, Mahindra, and BMW in their plans. They include in their plans. The greatest value here is the model, the reference of such companies as Axial. For now, they become a reference for us. These are unique companies, and we see how different they are from what we are used to hear from business evangelists, from we're different from what we read in Harvard Business Review, etc. I see that as a clear differentiation, and I don't like that because we're all talking about operation.
But in many NTI markets, R&D, they are leaders. I call this kind of companies science inside. These are the companies which have the full package from the first very step of innovation up to production. Minakak and Axial, these companies have these properties. So they do the whole portfolio, everything. It is great. I haven't come across this definition in business literature and in analytics. And this component I need to study further, because I think that this should be a conclusion being contradiction to common knowledge, but which is valuable concerning NTI strategies. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Everything is very simple. So there are several components. Weight, energy, opens new market, and number 3, the correlation which cannot be correlated and cannot be joined together. So when we have new solutions of, for instance, when we mix live and dead, not live, or some metamaterials where you create the final service, which refers to Wi-Fi without batteries, due to its micromechanical properties. So this kind of combination of incombinable things is the strategy for R&D and for NTI, which should be developed. So to take together, which can never be together. But this is the barrier we cannot break without your leading role, without you. So let us look at the products in NTI, the products approved. 2 years ago, we didn't have anything approved by you. Today, every second product of NTI is approved, and they are combined, interconnected. So next time we're starting a project for microelectro station, power plant stations. And these components become more and more impossible. And I think we've got to integrate more than just NANA and NET. Thank you very much, Dmitry. As I see it, the opportunities on the market, which are priority markets of national and technological initiative, were voiced, and this is NTI. And I would like the organizers to make the list for us about what the colleagues were asked, and take it about like a technical task. What about funding? It is funded by the state and by the private venture funds. And we hope, and we've heard it, funding will increase, and our partners from Europe are here too, and dwell from the point that Russia, like Europe, should work in substream. So these 1,000 companies, which will be suppliers of energy, which are going to sell the products and sell the companies to the leaders of the next dozens of years. Dmitry also speaks about very important thing, even behind Martin. For Martin especially has said that he plans for 10 years. Dmitry says about 20 to 30 years from today. And well, the products which have added value on the basis of new nanomaterials is the key, as he thinks. Thank you very much, my dear friends, for the discussion. I would like to thank all the participants. I hope it was not boring for you. Thank you very much. Just don't leave, please, my dear colleagues. Don't leave. Don't leave.